welcome to another session. Let's just quickly get started. We are looking at class assignment part 3 over here in this particular session, and we're looking at the aspect of important days. Now please remember, your question of important days is equally important. There are certain important days that you need to remember that are often asked, such as when is the Labor Day celebrated, when is the United Nations Day celebrated. We've already discussed the 24th October 1945, the United Nations came to be properly executed, so that's the United Nations Day. Or when can you celebrate the Commonwealth Day, or the Sparrow Day, or the Air Force Day, or the International Women's Day, Hindi Divas, Bal Divas, etc. So these are all important days that you need to keep in mind. It's a very scoring component. It is an extremely scoring component, so you need to keep a proper tab of all these days because they will be important for you. Okay. Alright, let's just quickly get started. When is Air Force Day celebrated in India? So when are we celebrating the Air Force Day in India? Now please remember, the Air Force Day is celebrated on the 8th of October every year. It is celebrated on the 8th of October every year, and considering we have no such option, so therefore none of these is the correct option. So the Air Force Day, the IAF or the Indian Air Force Day, it was the IAF or the Indian Air Force was founded on October 8th, 1932. And this has of course participated in many important wars and missions, and therefore the Indian Air Force Day is celebrated to mark its anniversary on October 8, 1932. The Indian Air Force Day or the Air Force Day is celebrated every year on October 8th, right? This is when the Indian Air Force was officially established in 1932. It is of course a very important day that is celebrated. So please remember that you have the Indian Air Force Day being celebrated, or the Air Force Day being celebrated on the 8th of October. When is Sparrow Day observed? Sparrow is a very common bird. We've all seen it since our childhood days, right? So the World Sparrow Day, the World Sparrow Day that we have, the Sparrow Day particularly in India, the Sparrow Day in India is observed on the 20th of March, okay? It is observed on the 20th of March. When do we observe the Sparrow Day? We observe the Sparrow Day on the 20th of March. Okay, so every year March 20th, every year on March 20th, we're observing the Sparrow Day to raise more awareness about the word. It is a diminutive small house bird, okay, called the Passer domesticus, right? So this is of course one of the earliest birds that we've seen since our childhood. Now please remember, when you talk about this entire Sparrow Day, which is trying to raise awareness about the bird, many bird watchers and ornithologists are, please remember, the root word logi means study. The root word logi means study. And ornithologists are people who are devoted to the branch of birds, right? To the branch of birds. So you can keep this in mind. You can get this question in your verbal ability section. Ornithologists are basically your people who are dealing with the study of birds, okay? So ornithologist is the correct answer here. So please do keep this in mind. This is extremely important that the Sparrow Day is celebrated on 20th March. International Women's Day is observed on the 8th of May. On the 8th of May every year, we've got the 8th March. 8th March is celebrated as the International Women's Day every year. Okay, I couldn't see that May part at all, that it's May part written on the third option. So option number 1 is the correct answer. International Women's Day is observed on the 8th of March. Okay, this is a day which is commemorating women, and please remember, this day is associated with color purple, and green, white were also there. We'll talk about that, but do keep this in mind. So International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th of March, and this of course started in 1911, where you see that people are trying to talk about a more equal society, a more equal world. Please remember, women started receiving suffrage rights. Suffrage is basically voting rights in 1920s, right? Where people like Virginia Woolf were fighting. So International Women's Day is celebrated on the 8th of March. 8th of March, it's a global day where you're celebrating, trying to bring about parity, that is equality that you want to bring around. And the colors which are there, purple is a color that's symbolizing women internationally. And of course, purple, green and white were earlier used, but please remember that purple is of course associated with it. Okay, so 8th March is International Women's Day. Commonwealth Day is observed on. Now, I want you to remember this question, okay? Now, please, this kind of question usually will not come in your exam, but why we are looking at this question, okay? Now, Commonwealth Day, when you talk about Commonwealth Day, right? Commonwealth Day is now celebrated. Now, please remember, there are two concepts. So, one concept that you need to understand, that Empire Day. What is Commonwealth? Commonwealth are all the countries that were ruled by the Britishers, okay? Now, the Empire Day is celebrated on the 24th of May. 24th of May is when the Empire Day is celebrated. Why? Because Queen Victoria passed away on 24th May 1901. So since then, this is considered to be the Empire Day. Okay, this is the death of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria had ruled England in the 19th century. That's where England had mostly colonized the entire world. The sun was never setting in the entire world. Okay, now please remember this one thing, that when you talk about the Empire Day, the Empire Day is basically a day that is your 24th of May. So here 24th of May can become the correct answer, but otherwise Commonwealth Day is now observed on the second Monday of March. When is the Commonwealth Day observed, child? The Commonwealth Day, Empire Day is 24th May. So you can take 24th May over here as the correct answer. But please remember, technically the Commonwealth Day, these kind of days which are fluctuating, like the Mother's Day every second week of May, or Father's Day every third Sunday of June. These kind of days never come in your exam, right? Mostly. So Commonwealth Day is a day that is celebrated on the second Monday of March. But the Empire Day, so the question should have either been Empire Day, that is 24th of May. The Commonwealth Day that you're talking about is second Monday of March. Please keep this in mind. So the Commonwealth Day is the annual celebration of nations that were ruled by the Britishers, right? So Queen Victoria's birthday, she was anointed as the umpire, and during her death in 1901, this day picked up 24th. So 24th of May was picked up as the Empire Day. You can remember this. This becomes important, right? So do keep this thing in mind, that whenever you talk about 24th May, 24th May was the Empire Day, and for many a times it was considered to be the Commonwealth Day also, but people said that they didn't want it to continue. Okay, they did not want it to continue with 24th May as the Commonwealth Day also. So then it was decided that what will happen, that every second Monday of March would be considered. So every second Monday of March would be considered as a Commonwealth Day. So Empire Day, please remember, I'm repeating it again, Empire Day is 24th May. Empire Day is 24th May, but Commonwealth Day is every second Monday of March. So for example, if the first Monday of March is 7th of March, then the next Monday will be the Empire Day. Okay, sorry, will be the Commonwealth Day. Labor Day is observed on the 1st of May. Please remember, even in India, we are observing the Labor Day on the 1st of May. Okay, so Labor Day is observed on the 1st of May. Please remember this. Now, two things that I want you to remember, that Maharashtra Day and Gujarat Day are also celebrated. You can get this question, especially if you're applying for important schools and colleges based out of Maharashtra. Right, so Maharashtra and Gujarat Day are celebrated on 1st May. Okay, so Labor Day is 1st May. So May 1 is celebrated, 1st of May is celebrated as the International Labor Day in many countries, right? And this is an official holiday in most of the countries. May Day is also called the Workers' Day or the International Workers' Day that you have. Alright, May Day in India was organized by Madras, now of course Chennai Labour Kisan Party of Hindustan, right? And please remember that apart from Labor Day, 1st of March is also your Maharashtra Day or the Gujarat Day, because these two states achieved their statehood, right? They achieved statehood. because they were bifurcated, like on the basis of linguistic lines. Gujarat and Maharashtra, they were bifurcated, so they achieved their statehood. Now, when is the National Hindi Divas celebrated? The National Hindi Divas is celebrated on the 14th of September. The National Hindi Divas is celebrated on the 14th of September, but Hindi Day, the World Hindi Day, is celebrated on 10th January. There's a difference, please remember. There is one that is World Hindi Day. World Hindi Day is on the 10th of January. World Hindi Day wants the world to start speaking in Hindi, and it also wants to let the world be more aware about the Hindi language, whereas Hindi Divas that you have, Hindi Divas, that is celebrated on the 14th of September. Please remember, these are two different dates. You need to be remembering that. World Hindi Day is celebrated on January 10th, right? January 10th, because this is marking the anniversary of the first World Hindi Conference that was held, alright? So World Hindi Day conferences are held in India, Mauritius, United Kingdom, United Nations, okay? So the World Hindi Day and National Hindi Divas, they sound similar, but they're very different. Please remember, your question was saying Hindi Divas is 14th September, World Hindi Day is 10th January, okay? Please remember this is important. Now, what happened on 14th September? On 14th September, you are adapting Hindi writing, okay? So there is basically adaptation of Hindi written in Devanagari script in 1950 as the official language of the Union by the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly on 14th September 1950 is declaring that Hindi will be one of the official languages, right? World Hindi Day, on the other hand, is celebrating the promotion of Hindi language. So World Hindi Day is 10th January. What is it doing? It wants to celebrate, it wants to promote Hindi language, and it is marking the anniversary of the first Hindi conference that was held by Indira Gandhi in 1975, whereas the Hindi Divas is celebrated on the 14th of September. That is commemorating Hindi being considered as one of the official languages by the Constituent Assembly. Okay, who was an important member? Who was the president of the Constituent Assembly? We've already discussed this in our warm-up exercises. So if you remember that we have the person who's considered to be the most important, the president of the Constituent Assembly was Rajendra Prasad, whereas the chairman, he was basically the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. The chairman of the Constituent Assembly was Rajendra Prasad, whereas the chairman of the drafting committee was B.R. Ambedkar. Keep on revising these pointers become important. Okay, World Hindi Day celebrated on 10th, which is looking at importance of Hindi. There are many words of Hindi that are now included in the Oxford Dictionary, like Jugaad, Bindi, Surya Namaskar, Yar, Pakka. These are all words that are now part of the Oxford English Dictionary. Okay, so you can keep that in mind, that the World Hindi Day wants to promote Hindi language, whereas the Hindi Divas is trying to celebrate that how Hindi was declared as one of the official languages. Mandela's Day is celebrated in honor of Nelson Mandela, the famous South African revolutionary, politician and philanthropist, on his birthday every year. On which day is Mandela Day celebrated? Nelson Mandela fought the apartheid. Apartheid is a color segregation that was taking place in South Africa. This was a color segregation. In South Africa, there was a color segregation policy between the blacks and the whites. Right, so Nelson Mandela was one of the crusaders against this, right? So when is the Mandela Day? When you talk about the Mandela Day, it's celebrated on the 18th July, okay? So please remember, on his birthday, this is on his birthday, Mandela Day is celebrated on 18th July. So 18th of July is celebrated as Mandela Day in honor of Nelson Mandela's life and legacy. Okay, you can remember that he's one of the most famous anti-apartheid revolutionaries. He's also served as a president of South Africa. Do remember this. So Mandela Day, International Mandela Day, Nelson Mandela International Day is 18th July. 18th July. Okay, he was born on 18th of July 1918, and of course he's known very popularly for his anti-apartheid revolution. He's also served as South African president from 1994 to 1999, and he was the first black head of the state in South Africa, and he served 27 years in prison. He's worked as a philanthropist. He's got the Nobel Peace Prize also. So July 18 is considered to be the Mandela Day. Okay, he fought for social justice for 67 years. When is the International Day of Non-Violence? Non-violence, major crusaders Mahatma Gandhi. 2nd of October is considered to be Gandhi Jayanti. 2nd of October is considered to be the International Day of Non-Violence. International Day for Non-Violence is celebrated on the 2nd of October. Do keep this in mind. This is the birth date of Mahatma Gandhi, and this is when International Day for Non-Violence is celebrated.